I'd really like to give you a warm welcome on behalf of the European Agency for Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises. The initial activity of Build Up Skills was to really identify the gaps which existed regarding the identification and roadmaps which could roll out national qualification platforms. And this was done by a status quo analysis in the period almost now 10 years ago.
I would like just to start with reminding us about this challenge. So what is the actual mostly technical, but not only technical challenge that needs to be achieved by upskilling professionals, in particular having in mind the renovation wave that should be implemented and should result eventually in the renovation of 35,000 buildings in 10 years. We have, as I mentioned, a very fragmented sector. So upskilling in a harmonized way is a challenge. And in all the projects that REVA participated, of course, we mostly target white collars, but I think it's true for the entire, let's say, qualification levels, that we need more concerted and harmonized actions for upskilling. As mentioned, the life cycle is also fragmented, so we should change the way how we think about quality management as a let's say, mandatory tool of technical assistance. In the renovation wave, we talk about the renovation wave strategy talks about the importance of technical assistance, but this should not be only about getting finance, getting bankable projects. It should be also about quality management that delivers in-use performance.
Construction is an important sector to address many challenges which EU is facing, from climate change to migration, from demographic changes to resource efficiency. So we can say with a confidence that it is a solution provider. And human capital is a critical factor in this context. Taking into account of workforce of over 12 million employed by construction contractors and over 22 million by the whole construction ecosystem or value chain. So upskilling and reskilling of construction workforce is therefore an immense task.
In our case, we really see the urgency to combine green and digital, of course. But we really want to stress the notion of life cycle performance of a building project. And we know that is not obvious, that is not so easy. So we are really trying our best to bring sort of life cycle thinking and circularity to the mainstream market and not just make it something which is sort of fashionable for the best performers. But I think it is a great opportunity to, whether it is on a sector level, business level, city level, or national level, to set up networks in this regard, and perhaps also linking it to the Bauhaus, actually, because the new Bauhaus initiative will, of course, also include a big component of sustainability.
We did actually do a survey last year amongst the stakeholders. And indeed, just to reflect that only just over 25% of stakeholders across Europe that were consulted, it actually was only June of this year, but it feels like a lot longer ago. 25% feel that they're in a higher band of a level of knowledge regarding energy efficiency by the building workforce, but that leaves the good 75% really needing upskilling on these topics.
I agree with the point on integrated energy design and the overall link with sustainability issues. As I said, in the renovation wave, which I come back to it all the time because it sets camp in a way. In mountaineering terms, it sets the camp, but we still need to do the climbing. But what we have on the camp is a very integrated vision of building renovation that does include general decarbonization, integration of renewables, but very importantly, as Josefina mentioned, also life cycle thinking and circularity.
It must be close to the labor market. So there must be a connection between education and training providers and the labor market. And that you have when you introduce already in initial education and training, vocational training, work-based learning. So not only dual system.
There is a lack of attractiveness from the sector. So there's a desperate need to position across Europe the importance of the sector and how this sector is undergoing a deep transformation, which is digital, which is green, and how it's embedded in the future. I'm fundamentally convinced that the first thing to develop skills in Europe is to develop an EU campaign to lift the image of the building sector and the construction sector, and in particular aiming it at the younger generation.
2017, we finally got an international standard that created a definition of what facility management is, so everybody can speak the same language. Although the role of a facility manager is extremely important in the life cycle of a building, we see that the largest focus is often put on the design, the construction, and the automation digitalization process. And whereas facility managers are actually responsible for 80% of the costs of the total life cycle of a building, only about 20% of the costs of the total life cycle of a building are in the construction phase.
What is important to ensure the demand for skilled professional? Again, we strongly believe indeed that we need to raise awareness among the final decision maker. We need to involve and train and improve partnership between intermediaries and representatives, for example, craftsmen association and property owners association at local level. We need to promote collaboration between actors. And here again, a one-stop shop can play a great role. So we need to massify this one-stop shop. And finally, but not least, we need to promote this all-encompassing type of skill and knowledge.
I think there needs to be a laser focus when we're looking at all kinds of policy relating to decarbonisation on the potential for that policy to drive the demand for skills, particularly at this early stage where we still haven't quite got building owner demand coming through. There's a really key role for government to get things moving. And finally, for education and training providers, we need to take more of a planned approach to the way we design our skills provision, not just to what employers need now, although that's incredibly important, but also to what employers are going to need 5-10 years' time.
I will present a nice set of policy recommendations that were put forward by our two speakers. Here they have been consolidated. So the first one would be to have an EU-wide campaign to lift the image of the building and construction sector, and particularly aimed at the younger generation, because this was really, in the end, this was really found as one of the key hurdles, this image, this awareness about this new reality behind construction.
The first being the need, especially at the local level, so the importance of implementing existing initiatives at European or national level, but the importance of consistent messages, consistent incentives, especially at the local level, towards renovation. The need and the importance of technical standards, also in the recognition of clear and measurable definitions of competencies which are required.
And with that, thank you to everybody. Thanks for your participation, and have a nice afternoon.